As a landmark day on Thursday when the first phase of the new Childrens Hospital began. The site at St James's campus is due to open its doors in 2020. But what about access for families here in Wicklow? Now, Jennifer Whitmore is a Social Democrats councillor in Graysons, and she does have concerns about this, and she joins us in the studio. Jennifer, good morning to you.
Good morning, Niall.
Tell us what your concerns are.
I think, Niall, my concerns and the concerns of a lot of people across Wicklow and across the country are how are we going to get our sick children into the hospital. The new Children's Hospital is located at St James's, or it will be located at St James's, bang in the middle of the city. And if you're trying to get in there with your child and you're in an ambulance or a car and you're stuck in traffic, it will be very, very difficult to get in and get them seen too quickly.
Because, of course, there was a lot of debate about the location, wasn't there? And a lot of people thought maybe Connolly would be a better site, or somewhere maybe out on the M50. But this was the decision taken, and it seems like we can't reverse it.
Well, this was the decision taken. Initially, they wanted it at the Mater, and the Mater didn't get planning permission, so then it was St James's was chosen. I would query whether we can't, change it. I think we need to look into the decision. I think a lot of the parents of the sick children have not been listened to in this debate. A few select people made the decision to go with James's, and it's sort of steamrolled since then. But I know from talking to parents of very, very sick children in Wicklow that they are very concerned about the location. They're coming together as a small group now, extra special children in Wicklow, and they're very concerned about the location of James's. But it's not just those very, very sick children that will be affected by this. All the children in Wicklow will now have to go into St James's in the instance of an emergency. So at the moment, if your child is in an ambulance, they will go straight to Cllr or Crumlin. Once the new hospital is built, that will no longer happen. They will be directed into St James's, into the city centre. So Cllr Hospital for children will essentially just become a urgent care centre. So it's a downgrading of the emergency care given there. And they will only have 6 observation beds, which will not be overnight stays. So if your child needs emergency care, they will have to get into the city centre to get that emergency care. And that is what I'm concerned about. Most of the other counties in Ireland would have access to emergency hospitals much closer, but if you're in Arklow or you're in Wicklow Town or you're in Baltinglass, you will now have to go into the city centre for emergency care for your children.
But Jennifer, are you not putting, and some would say you're putting a negative spin on a really, really good news story? We have been waiting for years for this hospital. We're told it's going to be state of the art, and it sounds like if you got your way, this would be delayed for another 5 years to relocate it to a different site. Well,
I suppose firstly it's a fantastic story that we are actually bringing together our children's hospitals, that we are aiming to have a hospital of, first world standards, like with fantastic services, but we need to get it into the right location. I mean, and that is my concern. And this is a project that will cost 750 million at least, and I think we need to get it right. It is a project that's going to be with us for the next 50 years, and putting it into the wrong location, it's not a sensible use of our taxpayers' money.
You're listening to Jennifer Whitmore, the Social Democrats councillor, who has joined us in the studio here today. We're talking about the new Children's Hospital, and Jennifer making the point that if you're living in the south of the county, certainly the length of time it will take you to get to that hospital on the St James's site will be quite lengthy indeed, and she is harbouring those concerns. Have you raised those concerns with the Health Minister? He's in your neck of the woods, Jennifer. You have good access to Simon Harris. What have you said to him?
I haven't had an opportunity to do it yet, and I hope to do it shortly. They're all gone on their break now, so I do hope to do it shortly. As I said, I have spoken to the parents, and we're pulling together our concerns. I've spoken to Ailish Hardyman, who is the head of the Children's Hospital Group, and I've expressed my concerns to her. Look, I think this is something that we need to have a public hearing on this, a committee hearing. It would only be 1 or 2 days, so it would not delay the project. But I think the parents of these children need to be listened to very, very carefully. Over 70% of people in the country during a Red C poll recently said that they thought it was the wrong location. 60,000 signatures were delivered into the Taoiseach's office of parents who thought it was the wrong location. They were delivered by children with very, very special needs, and no one even came down from the Taoiseach's office to meet with them. They had to just leave them at the gate. Now, these children and these parents are not being listened to, and it is important that we are listened to when we are making huge, major decisions, for the future of this country.
Jennifer, just before I let you go, and I do appreciate your time this morning, I think it is a big issue you're raising, and I think it will resonate, and remind people that this is coming down the tracks. I've thrown this question to a couple of councillors who have come in, and that's the issue of councillors' pay. Are you paid enough?
Oh, that's a very, very difficult one. And
I just raise it in the context that Leo Varadkar has said he is going to carry out a review of councillors' pay, because I think it's the elephant in the room. Perhaps people don't realise the amount of work you do, and perhaps you don't get properly remunerated.
I think the difficulty is with it. At the moment, I work full-time as a councillor, and the salary is 16,000, and you get expenses on it, but I think it brings up to around 22,000 with the expenses. So I think as a full-time wage, that it is probably not enough, and by not paying a full-time wage, what it means is that you're excluding a lot of people who would make very, very good councillors from taking that role on, because they just cannot afford to do it. My salary essentially pays for my childcare costs, and that will be essentially it. So I think it depends on, I think the role of the councillors need to be looked at. It's meant to be a part-time job, but it's actually not a part-time job. As I said, I do work full-time on it. So I think there is certainly scope to look at it and to review it. I think it will be welcome.
We'll appreciate that answer. Jennifer Whitmore, Social Democrats councillor in Graysons, thanks for joining us on Wicklow This Week.